our first guest today is Jen Plessis, and Jen is a former mortgage broker, and she's now become an international best-selling author and a sought-after speaker. And she's going to talk to us about, well, I'm going to leave her to tell us what she's going to talk to us about. But one of the things to listen for as a real estate investor or professional, that you want to listen for how you can boost your business using the tips and advice that Jen's going to give us. All right, so we're going to start now. And so, Jen, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. I'm honored and privileged to have this opportunity. I know that your community is exceptional, and I know that all the speakers have been exceptional as well. And of course, I'm biased about my daughter-in-law who spoke last night.
Yeah. She was awesome. In case you missed it, it was I think one of the best presentations about how to start as a rookie investor and go from just starting to owning properties, single family, multifamily, etc. So I highly recommend that you listen to that. So she's awesome. And had a great energy too. She knew a lot about how the systems they use to investigate property and manage their investments. Was worth the call. Just myself, because she gave her system. It upgraded what my thinking was about how to analyze property.
That's great.
So,
that's awesome.
All right. So, Jen, why don't you start by telling us about yourself? I mean, I gave you a brief, like a 13-second intro.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about yourself and what it is that you do?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so, well, I'm just going to kind of reiterate it, just so everybody has some context here and why, someone would be on this particular summit who is not a real estate agent, right? And definitely an investor. But for 35 years, I was in mortgage lending and in the top in the country. And one of my niches was investment financing. So I've had years and years and years of experience in investment financing, both in the traditional side, right, what most investors are familiar with when they are a investor wannabe, right? They learn that they have to pull their team together and find a lender that could work with them. And the first steps in that is just going, the traditional route if you're not doing fix and flips, obviously, or multifamily starting out. And so it's just to go to the traditional route. And that's what I did. But I got to the point for myself as well as for my clients that I was no longer qualified to go through that avenue because I had too many properties. I didn't meet the criteria for reserves sometimes, because sometimes as investors, something comes along and you use your cash and now you don't have the reserves to do something. And so I had to find outlets. And so what I did is for many, many years in my practice, I did the traditional financing, but then I also did the non-traditional financing. And I don't know, have you had someone from lending on this call yet? On the traditional side, residential?
Not on the traditional side. We've had Mitch Stevens yesterday who does seller financing. That's it so far.
Yeah, and I think that's really important too because, there's so many myths out there about what to do, right? What the financing is available in the traditional side. And there's a couple of different layers of that. So you don't ever want to just go out to non-traditional if you have the ability to qualify for traditional. So you basically want to get denied as you go along, right? Find out where you can't, and then you'll know where you land. But I had needed to find an outlet to be able to do financing very easily, not stressful, not being dragged through the mud to get financing, as you build your portfolio. And it was fantastic because, it allowed me to learn so much more about financing, which now I do subject to. That's my specialty. That's what I focus on. And, and of course with subject to, I don't even need financing anymore, but that's a whole other story. So the thing is, what I do now, and yeah, I have a podcast myself, and I have, I'm an author, and I speak all over the country, and I just booked a deal for Dubai a couple days ago. So and I speak internationally. Is that one of the challenges I saw with the investors that I was working with, as well as the investors that I saw at RIA meetings, was that everyone was talking about becoming an investor, but no one was actually taking the action. And it's funny because my podcast is called Stop Talking, Take Action, Get Results, for that very reason. And it's really the premise of all things that I coach on, because I'm also a coach, business coach, is that we have these dreams and desires, to have portfolios and to do investments and have a great business. I mean, all kinds of things we have dreams and desires for. But it's the taking the action. We know what to do because someone has given us their entire program, right? They've given us their program. We know what to do. It's just implementing the how that becomes so difficult. And that is
and fear is definitely an issue.
Oh yeah, that's the little catalyst that doesn't allow you to go from what to how, right? And so that becomes a challenge, right? That's one thing. And the other thing is time. And, everybody, listen, I have spent over probably $100,000 on courses, right? Just like most of us have. And, and everybody says you just need an hour a day or an hour a week, or you can do this in, no time. And it's finding the time, because once it's not even finding the time, because once you say, okay, so tonight I'm going to work on this, but you get there and you're like, okay, no, forgot how to do all this. Right. And so that becomes some of the challenge as well. But I think the bigger thing is finding the time. And so that's one of the things that I now do is I am a lifestyle business coach. And what that means is that I help people identify what the lifestyle is that they want. And then we build the business around it rather than trying to build a business and then squeeze your life in. Right. And so it's very big on priority management. And I think that sits really well with investors, because if you're not a full-time investor and you're coming home from work, you're tired and you're saying, oh, I need to do this activity. And so now how can we do the activities that are intentional and not feel like we're eating soup with a fork all the time, right?
Yeah, so and interruptions are, people have interruptions all the time. Somebody needs your attention, and you don't feel like it tonight because you're tired. There's all those reasons why not to get started.
Yeah. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact I have stopped saying, what are your goals, right? And looking back on that now and saying, it's not about your goals anymore. It's about your expectations. Because to me, goals are kind of dreamy. I have a goal to be an investor. I have a goal to buy my first property. I have a goal to work on multifamily. And it seems rather dreamy to me. But when I say my expectation is that I'm going to buy my first home by a certain date, and there's just a mindset shift in your thought process there. And it kind of goes along the lines of, I don't expect, I don't have a goal that my grandkids are going to go to bed at 8:00. I have an expectation that they're going to go to bed at 8:00, right? And so there's some certainty in that. And I think if you can look at your goals and switch them into your expectations, then it gives it a little more teeth. It gives it more meat for you to say, yeah, this is an intentional approach to me becoming a full-time investor rather than just this wishy-washy thought process.
Yeah, there's a great quote I just gave yesterday. I don't read this kind of literature, but Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, I saw somebody quoted that to me, and I go, he said, you can't prevent people from blocking your actions, but you have total control over your own intentions.
Yeah, yeah. Jim Rohn has a quote very similar to that. That is, if you, discipline yourself so that everyone else doesn't,
Mm.
right? Because we allow for all these things to come at us, and so let's discipline ourselves. And that's one of the core pieces of my practice is discipline, right? It's obviously consistency, but it's also the discipline of being consistent, right? And so, Jim always said, if you just let everybody else control your world and your life, then you're not going to be able to get where you want to go. And here's another fun quote too. Les Brown. I travel with Les Brown. I'm on his faculty, and he says that if you'll do what is hard, your life will be easy.
Mm.
If you do what is easy, your life will continue to be hard.
That's really great.
And it
One of the things that you said the other day when we were on the phone, you said something that when I'm working, I'm working.
yeah.
And when I'm with my family, I'm with my family. And I keep those very distinct so that I'm intentional about my work. That's paraphrase it.
Yeah. It's I personally don't believe in balance. I hear people talking about, I want life work balance, and I get the concept, but to me a balance sits 50-50.
Mm.
That's why I'm all in one way and all in another way. Now I'm not an expert at it, right? Because it's still life, it's still things, but I am 30 times better than I used to be with my family. And I have a lot of stories about that too, and how that came about. And I imagine that it would resonate with a lot of your listeners, and we can, go on that story in a moment. But yeah, I believe that, if you're all in, and you're 100% time, focused attention, it's intentional,
Mm-hmm.
you will get more done. I own 4 businesses, right? And when people say to me, Jen, I don't understand how you can own 4 businesses. How do you get that all done? And I'm a competitive ballroom, Latin, and swing dancer. So I am dancing all the time, right? I'm at the studio 2-3 hours a day. And by the way, I'm also a competitive marksman. So I have to practice my shooting to be on a team, right?
Mm.
So I have to, and I have grandkids, and I have life just like everybody else. But I make sure that those things get done because they fulfill me. And I want more of it. It's like a fix, and it's a drug. I want more of that. And so how do I get more of that? I make sure that anything that I'm doing in my business, any of my businesses, which includes investing, it is intentional and it's highly focused. I get in, I get out, I do what I need to do, and I move on. There's no him-hawing around. There's not thinking about it. It's very, very intentional work. And, for me, it's not about the money success that I'm chasing. It's about the fulfillment I have in all of the jobs that I do
Mm.
that allow me to then go be fulfilled with all of the things that I love to do, on the personal side as well. Not, I don't want to be in the room, but not present with my
Mm.
family because my mind's someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is extremely important.
Mm.
But here's the challenge I find with people is that because they're not clear on their goals, right, on those expectations that they have, and they're not clear on what really satisfies them and gives them that fulfillment, they'll allow people to pull them, sort of like that little Stretch Armstrong that we had years ago, right? When the boys would pull and whoever pulled the hardest got you. And so we allow that to happen. And so we don't set these boundaries for ourselves so that we can actually accomplish what we're setting out to accomplish. And that is why when we sit at the computer, and especially as entrepreneurs, right? If you have a job, it's really easy to go to your job because you have to work to get paid, and you just do your work.
Mm-hmm.
When you're an entrepreneur and when you're a real estate investor and you sit in front of the computer, yeah, what is it I want to do, right? And like you said, sometimes you don't feel like doing it, but it's your job, right? This is your job. You took this on. This is what you want. You have to do some things that you don't necessarily like to do in your job. But if you can get in quick, do what you need to do and get out and go have fun and, explore, do cultural experiences. then your sustainability is going to be there for long term.
Mm.
So you won't just buy 2 or 3 and say, yeah, I tried that and now I don't buy any more properties. That's the sustainability, is having unbelievable. Here's another quote from Les Brown. I know I have other people's quotes, obviously. Yeah. But he says, if you're casual about your dreams, this is how he says it. If you're casual about your dreams will become a casualty.
I can hear his almost his accent.
Of course you can.
Say it again.
If you're casual about your dreams will become a casualty. Pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful. I didn't say it, he did. But I'm reminded of it all the time. If I'm casual about these and I'm not intentional about them and have a very specific plan to get there, and for me, having a plan that is extremely efficient so that it can be extremely effective, right? Then I'm going to spend most of my time running in circles and chasing my tail. And so I'm very, very clear about what I want, what my boundaries are. And when I sit down at the computer, I'm doing all the work that I possibly can in the time frame I've allotted to do that.
Mm-hmm. And you own not only single family properties, but you own vacation rentals. What is it all? Why don't you tell us what your
Airbnbs. Yeah, Airbnbs. Mm-hmm. So a couple things on the Airbnbs is one, our home, our residence. And a lot of people are like, oh, you don't want your personal things. You go to a lot of people's places, on vacation, even if it's not an Airbnb, and they have an owner's closet, and that's there for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. So we Airbnb our home. We have a boat. I'll just kind of give you some stories. We have a boat, and my husband and I are on the boat all the time in the summer, and we're floating on the water and we're having cocktails, and I'm thinking, gosh, we live in Northern Virginia, which is the East Coast Napa Valley of vineyards and breweries. It's also just like the Kentucky Derby area, where we are all about steeplechasing. It's the oldest steeplechasing area in the United States. It was the first place that steeplechasing was. So it's absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful horse country. It's beautiful everything. And here we are floating on our boat, and I'm going, while we're floating, there are people that are coming out to these wineries and these vineyards to have weddings, and there are absolutely no hotels. The closest hotel is about 25 miles away. Mm-hmm. And I take that back. There might be like a motel close, but it's pretty bad, right? And I said, honey, we could be making money sitting out here just enjoying our boat. So that's what we started doing. We started that almost 2 years ago now. And it's been exceptional. And it was a way that I started it because I thought, let me just test it with me in my own atmosphere. And then later what we did is we went out and we rented properties from landlords who didn't want to rent anymore, or who were looking for rentals, right? And we actually look at people who are trying to sell because they don't want to be landlords anymore. And we'll say, hey, we'll go ahead and rent it. So we rent it. We don't sublet it. It's us. We're renting, and then we convert that into an Airbnb. And so we've done several of those. My son and daughter-in-law, are exploring that as a means for some of the investment properties that they have, to convert them from just traditional leases into Airbnbs. In fact, today that's where they're at. They're down looking at some of their rentals to see if that's a possibility that they can do. So the Airbnbs. The second is the subject twos. And with the subject twos, we're buying houses that are, the seller has to sell for whatever reason. We have one seller who bought an investment property here in Washington, D.C. for his daughter and boyfriend. He lives in Texas. They broke up. And when they broke up, he said, I don't want anything to do with it. The daughter didn't want to live in it. And he said, I don't want anything to do with it. I just want to sell it, and I want to sell it ASAP. And so he could have put it on the market with a realtor, and he could have, waited and paid, 6% commission and the whole thing, or he could just let us take over the payment, which is what we did. And then what we did is we then offered the property out for sale and did owner financing and got a deposit. We require at least a 10% deposit, got a 10% deposit, and then we, wrapped their mortgage around and now are collecting higher payments and then making the payment, for the mortgage for the investor so that his credit maintains and stays really good. And so we're growing equity. We have cash flow. We got a nice little booster shot. And we took care of, someone who needed to sell quickly and no late payments. It wasn't foreclosure. We have some of those too, but it's just a lot of times it's just need. And especially if you're in a transient area like we hear in Washington, D.C., where people get transferred quite a bit, both for the government, private sector, and military. And so for us, it's really good because, people just want to get in and out. On the buy side of that, the clients that we attract are people that can't qualify for a traditional loan. They have a reason why they can't. And sometimes it's credit, and sometimes it's just that they don't have 2 years history as a self-employed person, or they don't quite have the down payment that they need for qualifying, right? And so we just work with them to be able to get them into the house. And then, of course, we have an exit strategy. Now, I retired from lending last year. My husband's still in it. He's been in for 25 years. So he uses that as a future opportunity for him to make money because he's now coaching them on how to prepare, to get themselves in a position that they can get out of the house in the time frame that we've allotted. So that's what we are doing. And
which interesting thing you bring there is that you're bringing your own particular skills and personality, but it really, and your skills in terms of mortgage lending, in terms of, the area where you're an expert in, which is, your area, what the value of the Airbnbs can be in that area. So you're bringing your own unique experience and your own unique abilities to add to your purchasing of properties.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And being able to qualify a client as to whether or not, and I have a different set of criteria for this, these types of things, but, being able to qualify a client, being able to look at their credit and know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at their credit and having them pull their own credit, that's, super, super helpful. And, even beyond that, what's really exciting is that the realtors that we have relationships with, a lot of them. So think about this, if you're a realtor and you're watching this, or if you are an investor, what happens is a lot of realtors go on listing appointment calls, and what they find is that the person doesn't have enough equity. And so it's sort of a lost deal, or I'll keep them in my database and I'll follow up with them, and then life happens and they never do. And then they run into the client at Starbucks and they say, oh yeah, we sold a house and bought a house, and you're going, I missed it, right? And so what we do is we also compensate realtors for referrals. And because we have those relationships with them, it made it really easy for us. Now, if you're an investor and you don't have as many, this is a great opportunity, other than, hey, if you run across anything, we'd like to get first shot at it. If you have a fix and flip and, whatever your investing strategy is. For us, this is really good because the realtor can still make money because we'll pay a commission. We won't pay 6%, but we'll pay a finder's fee for them to provide us with somebody that they just met and has to sell, but they don't have the equity to do it. Instead of walking away and not making any money, instead of walking away and leaving that person in that predicament, they call us and see if it's something that we want to take on. And so it's a really nice tit for tat, with us, and really nice relationship.
Right. Well, what I'm particularly intrigued by is that you have, you're just like the people that are listening to this and will listen to this, watch this call. You have your own unique skills, your own unique information that everyone else in the country has their own unique abilities, which they can bring to a real estate transaction.
Yeah.
And that ability, who they know, what their background is all things that they can use to ignite their real estate investing business.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I love that you said ignite.
Ignite.
That's one of my coaching programs. Ignite. Yeah, Yeah, I agree. I agree. The thing is, don't keep it a secret.
Mhm.
Get out there and network. And so I would say, if you are the kind of person that when you come home, you're really tired
Mhm.
and you say, I just don't want to put the effort into it tonight, then don't go home. Go to a networking event, talk to people that night and get pumped up about, the possibilities that are there. And what I love so much about subject two is that a lot of these clients, don't end up refinancing, and I shouldn't say a lot, but there are a handful of them that don't refinance, and we have to foreclose on them, and we get to resell the house. So
Mhm.
there's one side of this that I really want people to move forward, but
Mhm.
the other side is it's okay if they don't. I don't get hurt either way, because if they don't pay and we have to foreclose on them, we now have more equity and we now can resell, get another deposit from another person, and continue to have cash flow.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome, and I appreciate you sharing your your not only your background, but your how you're bringing that to your real estate investing and how you look at real estate investing, and it really gives a kind of a, you could say, like it illustrates your investing personality.
Yeah.
You're right, so that's, and everybody can relate to that, having an investing personality and developing that. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I know you coach on is taking back your time,
Yeah.
taking back your focus,
Mhm.
and ask you to share more about that if you can, because everyone here, I know everybody in the world actually gets way too much email, and we have so many demands on our time.
Yeah.
In prioritizing them becomes a challenge, given that my daughter called, but I have this investor, the lender that called. Who should I call back first? So would you share more about that, your focus?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm happy to. Okay, so let me give you a story, and I'm taking notes because I want to make sure I talk
and I'm
about
going to
stuff.
go off camera for a second so that I can
You're
uh,
just going to let me spew. Yeah.
let you talk. There you go.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So the first thing about this is, let me just kind of dumb this down in two different ways. One is just, it's a reticular question. You don't have to answer the question, obviously, but is that if, you know, when you come from the grocery store, so I don't, even if you're at the grocery store, but if you come from the grocery store, we always have everything that we purchase from the grocery store in a bag. And we use that bag to carry everything into the house. And once we get in the house, we sort through that bag, right? And it's typical that we'll put everything all in one corner that's going to go in the refrigerator, and everything that's going to go in a cabinet in a different corner. We try not to grab milk and put it in the fridge and then close the fridge and then go get cottage cheese and open the fridge and put it in, right? So we try to compartmentalize everything. What we don't do is we don't have the bag sitting in the car and we take a can of beans out and we walk it all the way to the house, put it in a cabinet, come back out, get some bread, take it back. And when I tell you that story, it's actually just silly, right? It's just ridiculous to think that people would do that, unless, of course, you wanted to lose weight, right? You want to get some more exercise. But it's ridiculous that people would do that because it's just, it doesn't make any sense. So we want to compartmentalize that. The other story that's like that same exact thing is doing laundry. If you pull laundry out and you put it in a basket, the tendency is that you fold everything, you put them in piles, and then you take them into the various rooms. It's not something where you take it out, you fold it, and you run it to a room and come back. And you take another thing out and run it someplace else and come back. It's the same thing. And that's why we have a tendency to call everything, I have a laundry list of things to do, right? A laundry list. So if we think about the way that we receive email, it's the exact same thing. It is a grocery bag of a variety of things. It's a laundry basket full of different things. And when we receive our email, this laundry list of, hey, can you look at this cute little puppy video? Did you get the contract? Can you review this? You need to come to this event. Mom, stop and get food, whatever it is. And if we just sort through that, as laundry, then we're doing the exact same thing that I just suggested was the most ridiculous thing for us to do for time, right? And so compartmentalizing your email is, in my opinion, something very, very critical to be able to do. So I have a 0 email policy, right? Every day at the end of the day, I have no email left. That doesn't necessarily mean that I have addressed all of the email. It means that the email is no longer in my email box. It is now in a pile to be put away, or in a corner of a kitchen to be put away when I'm ready to go over to that pile or to that corner or walk to that room. And so what I do is I compartmentalize everything that has to do, well, in my case, because I have so many businesses, I have different email accounts, right? And then the email accounts I have different compartmentalized. So what I did is I set up rules in my Outlook that when an email comes in, it has a specific subject or topic in it that I've learned what it's going to look like. If it's something's coming from my coach, or something's coming with a contract, or from my team, I know that that is automatically going to go into a different folder. If you don't know how to set up rules, then just click and drag it to the folder, right? And those folders should be folders that you have said, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to block some time, and that's when I'm going to be working on it. Now, I call it Finder, Minder, and Grinder. So there's finding time. So let's talk about investments for a little bit. There's a period of time where you're going to be looking for opportunities, and that's your finder time. And maybe that finder time is also where you're trying to build your team and your your relationships, your affiliate relationships, JV relationships, realtor relationships, contractor relationships. That finder time, during that time, that's all you do is finder, 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 finder. Because now you get in a rhythm, and I'll tell you about that story in just a minute. Now you get into a rhythm, and when you're in that rhythm, you go 10 times faster, and you get so much more done. Rather than I'm trying to fill out a contract. Now I'm answering a call. Now I'm doing this, right? And all these things, again, it's just like that laundry list. So you have finder time, and then you have minder time. So an email comes in and somebody wants you to, respond to a home inspection or something. If it's not time critical, you can put it into your minder activity. So these are things that you're doing to do customer service. Maybe it's a phone call to your tenant to say thank you again for working with me. So the minder time is good too. And then you have the grinder time. And the grinder time is maybe doing your research before you make a phone call to a seller, right? Doing the research behind it. Maybe it's creating your forms. Maybe it's your contracts. Maybe it's your lease agreements. Maybe it's checklists, right? Onboarding checklists or things like that. That's where or ordering things, supplies and whatnot. That's your grinder time. You can also look at it in a couple of different ways. You could have promotion time where you're promoting. That's like the finder. You could have production time, which is when you are doing the minder activities, you're producing. And then you could have content or if you want. It doesn't have to be all P's. Content time where you're developing, content to be able to go out and do the promotion. So however you call it, you can call it 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, it doesn't matter. The key is that when you get those emails in, that everything goes into that compartmentalized time. And then when that time comes up on your calendar, you open up your calendar and you have a list of things that are all finder, a list of things that are all minder or all grinder. And now you can tackle those things all at one time. I used to have a list called computer, and it was anytime I'm going to be on my computer, I would do these activities because I'm on and then I'm off, right? Instead of being on and logging in, logging off, and then going to and coming in, logging in again. It's just I watch people do this and I think it's just hilarious. And here's what's funny about it. It's now become, because of Facebook and social media, I shouldn't say just Facebook, it's social media. It's become this glorification of busyness, right? It's like the more busy you are, the more cool you look. And I have to tell you, I think that busyness does not guarantee success, right? And so we have to get out of the busyness of business and get to to the true intention of business. So I want to give you another example, then I'll tell you something else too. So if you're doing Christmas cards, right, you write out a Christmas card, and the first one, you know, you're writing, hey, Aunt Sue is great, and the family's doing wonderful, and kisses and hearts, and you sign it, and you stuff it, and you lick the stamp, and you look on your phone, you find the address, and you peel a stamp, put it on, and then if you have a return stamp, you stamp it. By the time you're at your 8th, 9th, and 10th one, you're just signing the card. And by the time you're at your 15th one, you're signing all the cards at one time. Then you're stuffing them all at one time. And then you're laying out the cards and you're stamping them all at one time because you found a more efficient way to do it. And that efficiency, oddly enough, happens to be compartmentalizing, writing all the cards, doing all the stamps, you get a wet washcloth out and you lick all the envelopes now, right? So it's the same exact thing. So that's what I implore you to do, is to compartmentalize your activities so that like-minded or like activities are all being done at the same time. It's like having different buckets. You can't carry, if you try to carry 7 buckets at one time of water, everything's going to spill. So you just want to carry 1 bucket at a time. So here's a strategy that, depending on your situation and what you're doing, that might work for you. So one of the other distractions is phone calls, a lot of phone calls. And so I've gotten to the point now where my phone rings maybe once or twice a day. So I've had to kind of switch that over into now, gosh, everybody's texting and instant messaging, right? I'm doing private messages. So I've had to switch that over to say, okay, I'm going to react to those in the same way that I will react to a lot of phone calls. But we put this undue pressure on ourselves all the time. And part of it is that we're trying to serve people, right? We're trying to provide good customer service, so we don't want to lose a deal. And so what we do is that we say, listen, assuming you say this, right? I'm in a meeting right now. Can I call you back? Why did you answer the phone anyway? If you're in the meeting, just be in the meeting. Be present. Be present, because you're going to absorb more of the content of the meeting than not being present and being distracted, because you'll end up having to go back to the meeting and you'll miss details. And especially when we're negotiating, right? We don't want to miss details. So be present, turn the phone off, put it away, turn it over. There's nothing that has to happen during that call. Right? But if you are picking up the phone and calling someone or having a phone call with someone, I used to say I would call you at 4 o'clock, and then 4:03 would come up and I would start really just having stress on my chest, right? I told him I'd call him at 4 and it's not 4, it's 4:03. And so what I did is I started saying this. I started saying, hey, would it be okay? Thank you so much. Let's talk. Let me get back to you. Let me do some research and let me get back to you today between 3 and 5, 1 and 2, whatever your time frame is. And I would suggest a couple of hours, but let me get back to you between 2 and 4. And it's not even let me get back. Would it be okay if I got back to you today between 2 and 4 when I'm in front of my computer and I can dedicate 100% of my time and attention to serving you? That's it. I have never had someone say no. Now, I've had someone say, it's really, really important. Do you think you could get back to me earlier? And I then give them, yes, I could probably get back to you between 12 and 1:30. Would that work? But never a specific time anymore, because it puts too much undue stress on us. That area, that time, is my compartmentalized time of returning phone calls. So now I have the ability, I'm in that same mode of returning phone calls, and generally it's returning phone calls for the same similar reason. It's not a multitude of different reasons that will take too much of my time. So again, would it be okay if I called you back between 2 and 4 when I'm in front of my computer and I can dedicate 100% of my time and attention to serve you? And there's no one that has ever said, no, I don't want to be served. I definitely don't want to be served. I want you to be distracted. I want you to be focused on 20 other things. And I want you to call me 10 times more because you didn't listen the 100 times before. And that's just a waste of time. And so there's no way that you can have multiple businesses without creating disciplines and creating boundaries for yourself so that you can manage those businesses. So if you're an investor who has a full-time job and you're doing investing part-time, it's no different than having 4 businesses. It's the same thing. You have to be in control of your time and presence rather than self-sabotaging your family, your health. There's a multitude of reasons why things will never work because of that. So hopefully that answers the question, Chuck, that you had about, and I don't even know if he's there. So,
I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully that answers that question because, I know it's long drawn out, but it is, I love giving stories and telling examples because a lot of people just don't know how to move forward with it. Again, I know I need to manage my time, but I don't know how to do it, how to actually put that together. So I would just say, compartmentalize your time, get a bunch of time blocks together and do them in priority. I just noticed, did everybody notice? Look at where is this at? You like my head right there through the whole video. Oh, well.
You look a little bit like an American Indian.
Yeah. That's good. Is that girl with that pointy head? Yep, that was her. Yeah. That was her.
Well, I'm particularly interested in you have the recommendations like how you handle the computer and things that you're basically stacking together.
Yeah.
The things that are working together. And then, but I particularly like to hear more about how dealing with those the interruptions that are we've got the interruptions that are business interruptions. We can just decide which one of those and slot them. How about the interruptions, or you could say even other intentions that you have, or that with the people that are in social and family, particularly because they tend to be a little more urgent calls. So, and then some of those are urgent, and some of those are important. So, just like you're thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, just put them second. That's all. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. So my mom had this quote. I'm all in about quotes, right? She had this quote that was, we flatter those we scarcely know. We please the fleeting guests, but we deal many a thoughtless blow to those we love the best. Right?
Yeah.
And it's so true. As soon as a client gets on the phone, as soon as somebody's on the phone, they are priority and our families are secondary. This is why balance is such a problem for people, trying to balance it. So again, when you're with your family, you're with your family. You don't take business calls. When you're with your business, you don't take family calls unless of course it's an emergency. So one of the things that there's a couple things that we do with my husband. Now, of course my kids are grown, right? So it's different. But if I'm doing something really important and I know that I do not want any distractions, in today's day and age, it's a simple group text. Hey everybody, I just want to let you know, like right now, I want you to know that I'm going to be on a live video for the next hour to hour and a half. Please, no text, no phone calls, nothing, unless it's an absolute emergency, right? And so it's letting people know. So my assistant, it's the same thing. She has my schedule and we already set the tone for this, is that when you see that I'm on one of these things, no emails, no texts, no phone calls, because they come into your computer anyway. While we're sitting here, emails come in, even if you haven't turned off. Maybe it's a Mac thing, I don't know, but I still get notices. So it's just making sure that people are aware of the situation rather than being in your own compartment. You can go as far as doing that with your clients. I've not been a fan of listening to a voicemail that says, thank you, I'm going to return phone calls between 2 and 4, because it doesn't give me the verbal opportunity to tell someone that I'm here to serve them. It just says, I'll call you when I'm available. I've even heard voicemails that say, I'll give you a call back at my earliest opportunity. Or I'll give you a call back, when I have a few minutes, and that's just not serving. So I'm not really into that. I'd rather say, hey, real quick, I know that you want to talk, but I'm in the middle of something right now. Or I'm about ready to go into a meeting. Would it be okay if I gave you a call back later? But if I'm in my zone and I'm doing something, the phone has to go off. And I think that's some of the problem that people have is they don't turn their phones off. They don't shut down their email when you're working on maybe doing research on a property. And you can make one silly little mistake in your calculations, and it can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, and it's just not worth it. So I would just say, tell your family that you're in that. And now if you're working from home, like I do now, I'm at my daughter's house today, but when I was working from home and the kids were at home years ago, I would put a note on the door that said I was in a power hour. And that meant Mom doesn't get interrupted unless your finger fell off. It just didn't. You just can't. You can't interrupt me. And I know that my kids do that. Matter of fact, Emily's husband, my son, he does that as well. Where the two of them actually have their own power hours, and they trade off on watching the kids because they stay home all day. I mean, they don't have real jobs. They both just are home, doing investing and whatever else, what his company is, and. So they have to carve out that time, to be able to help let your family know what you're trying to accomplish, and have them get on board with you with that. I think that that's critical. Here's another little trick. Speaking of email, made me think of this. So you're writing an email and you hit send, and then you say, okay, so now I'm going to work on this project, right? And then all of a sudden the person you just sent it to, it comes back. Right? And now you email them again. Now you're really going to work on the project, right? They email back with another question, and now an hour has gone by, and now you have to hop on a call, and you never got to the project, right? So just take a few minutes to think. I always say this: slow down to speed up. Don't speed up to slow down. So just slow down and say, if I'm going to send all these emails, and what is the likelihood that someone's going to want a follow-up question or going to respond with thanks and whatever, and what is my next block of time? And if my next block of time is a quiet time where I need to really, really think and work on something very detailed, then I will not send those emails. I will hold them as drafts, do my project, then hit send to everybody. Go do what else I need to do, and then have a block where I return emails as well, so that I'm not doing, again, those things, because I have that rule that everything goes into a block. And when I'm in the block, I then look at those emails and respond to them. But I'm looking forward and saying, what's my next activity, as to whether or not I'm actually going to hit the send button on those emails, or save them for a draft and send them at a more appropriate time so that I could respond later.
Yeah, there's such a tendency to have to do it immediately. Like, somebody emailed me, I got to respond to it right now.
Yeah. So that's why my zero email is actually zero from me looking at it, so that I'm not stressed out about it and checking it when I'm with family, right? And with my husband, but rather it goes into a compartment, into a folder that I will address when I'm in that time block.
So the time blocks are sacred, you could say. Time block for family is sacred. Time block for your real estate investing is sacred. Time blocks for email. You have a time block.
Yeah. I mean, for everything. And, it's just, what I've just learned is that, the whole more, I don't want to say spiritual, but just the heart center of my business is that a life of values adds value everywhere in your life. And if you can determine what your core values are, what fulfills you, and you can get more of it, right? And every decision you make in your business is based on those core values. So, for example, I just got asked to go to Bali, not Dubai, Bali, for a retreat. And, I said, well, how much was it? And they told me, and I said, well, I can pay for it, not a problem. But because one of my core values is stability, I look and say, okay, how does that affect the stability of my time by being gone for 10 days? And how does that affect the stability of me financially being gone and doing this? And so while I could pay for it, right, because I would be gone for 10 days, I wasn't going to be able to work on all of the presentations and things like that, because I'm leaving tomorrow and I won't be back until September 28th. I'll be on the road speaking. And so I had to prepare for that. So if I was in Bali, I wouldn't be prepared and I'd be stressed, and it would create instability for me just preparing and doing a great job for the month of September out on the road. It also was that if I'm out on the road, right, I'm doing promotion time, but I'm not actually doing selling time. So now at the end of September, I'd be going, I shouldn't have spent that money because I need it for this, right? So just slowing down and looking at those things that matter to you will help you make better decisions in your business. And I know that lots of investors, all the gurus I've had and the teachers I've had for investment are saying, draw a line in the sand for your investment. If it's $250 a month positive cash flow, then never buy a house when it's $249, ever, right? Draw that line. And, don't get excited about an investment just because you're excited about it. The numbers have to work. They have to work. And that's what I taught my kids. That's why they invest the way they do, right? Is the numbers have to work, and you can't let the emotion get in there. So it's the flip side with these core values, is the discipline to listen to yourself and say, what really matters to me, right? It does this for me, faith and family. Faith, family, and stability. Those are my three cores. So does it affect my faith? Am I working with someone who is just, I don't trust them. My gut's telling me. And so I'm going to look at that. Is it going to affect my family? If I buy this, or if I do something, is it going to affect my family? And I'm here to tell you, it's hard to talk about because for 35 years, all I did, for 35 years, all I did was chase a dream. Now, I shouldn't say for all the 35, but all I did was chase success and chase money and chase those things. And I said, yes, I'll meet you at 9:00 at night, even though my son has a baseball game, because he has tons of baseball games. There'll be another baseball game, but that's not the truth. That's not the truth. That was a lie I was telling myself. Yes, he had all those baseball games, but he'll say to me a lot, wow, look at this. You're showing up to the grandkids' game, to their soccer game. You never showed up to mine, right? And so a life with values adds value everywhere. Health, cultural experiences, faith, family, finances, everything. If you can just stop and be disciplined and set boundaries for yourself to be able to make better decisions to move forward. And then the world will come to you. The world will definitely come to you. And you may lose opportunities in your mind. You may have lost an opportunity because you held to that conviction, but I promise you'll get it back tenfold someplace else. Absolutely.
Jen, that was awesome what you just shared about values. Awesome. And it's moving. As you're moved, we're moved by that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm trying to be a big girl.
Yeah. Well, but
it is important. Yeah.
That's a different value, but you don't have to be a big girl. You can be present to your inspiration and your emotion too. So I really appreciate you doing that. I know you have a free gift and maybe an offer as well, but you have a free gift which is addressing values. That's why I came back on to. You want to share that information, what you have, and
yeah, absolutely. So I think you're probably going to have the link somewhere in the chat or something.
Put it in right now.
Yeah, jenduplessis.com/7 strategies. And really what it is it's 7 strategies to transform your business. It's a mindset exercise before you head into the technicality of business, because my coaching is a little mindset to get your foundation right, and then the rest of it's techie, right? Like how to do things, the technical piece of the time management, which happens to be one part of what I execute. I'm also an expert in systems, right? I don't believe that you can scale unless you have systems to be able to scale. Everything I do is, how can I work on it, do what Les says, how do I do what's hard so that the rest of the time it can be easy and I can manifest everything that I want to accomplish, right? So it's just 7 questions to really get you slowing down to speed up, thinking and dropping back and saying, what are my core values? And am I living my core values, or am I just out there pretending that these are things that I want? I mean, why are you an investor? What truly is behind all that? Because everybody is doing it and you should, but is it sitting well with you, right? And if it's sitting well with you, what type of investing? For example, I do the subject twos because I feel it's more heart-centric. I'm helping someone with a really bad, a lot of times, a bad situation. Someone's passed away, there's a divorce. I'm not taking advantage. I'm taking care, right? And so for me, that's more in line with my values. What isn't in line for me is flipping a property and spending time going over and babysitting people flipping a property. But for someone else, that is a value. And what I do is not a value. So it's not just how much money you can make, how much time it takes, but does it really sit with you as a core value? And when it does, then it's fun. And when it's fun, you will put the effort into making it successful, right? And you won't have these excuses that you have in the middle of the, in the nighttime. And I just think that that's really, really important. So that's one of the questions. Some other questions, like the boundaries, what's holding you back, where are you stuck? Realizing where you're stuck, why are you stuck, who could you surround yourself with, and really assessing your circle of influence and making sure that they're the right circle. And probably not a good analogy on the circle, but if you think about climbing up a ladder, right, on a ladder, and the rungs of the ladder represent every level that you are. Maybe you have 1 property, maybe you have 20, maybe it's the first rung is making 50,000 and the second rung is making 500,000, right? You can never climb a ladder of success by holding on to the bottom rung, unless you're one of those barrel of monkeys, right? You just can't do that. So at some point, in order to get where you want to go, whatever that is for you, you're going to have to let go of the lower rung. And sometimes that's letting go of people that you used to surround yourself with, and now you can't. I mean, you've grown past them. It's not saying goodbye and, hey, I don't like you, I'm on a new rung, right? But I just let one of my assistants go because she couldn't keep up with me. I was moving up and she wasn't. And so I found another assistant, right? But it's all this self-assessment before you now build your business. So determine what your lifestyle is. What do you want for your family? What do you want in your core values? And then build your business around it and have it be extremely intentional so that you get in, you get out, you still make as much money as the person who's spending 100 hours doing it and allowing time to ooze and not be intentional. Rather than building a business plan and trying to fit you and your lifestyle in.
Yeah, and we're not taught that in business school or in any kind of financial courses. We're taught to do it just the opposite way, what you just
said. Do the business plan. If you can fit your life in, great. I'm here to tell you it's not worth it. You saw how I got upset about that. It is not worth it.
Yeah. I put the link to the 7 strategies in the chat box for people that like to copy that.
Yeah, great.
Anything else? Anything?
Nope, that's it. Unless anybody has any questions, that's it. I just, wanted to share that with you. And I think the one thing I want to leave you with, I mean, obviously everything about, your life of values and, just get out of the busyness of being busy and the glorification of being busy and really do what's right for you and your family. That's definitely, one piece of what you want to do. But but on the technical side with investing, find a lender who specializes in investing. Not all lenders do. There's a lot of myths out there. Make sure that you are, not just going to one lender, but go to several and ask them some very, you need to start asking really, really tight questions to make sure, what happens when I get to 4 properties? What happens when I get to 12 properties? What does that start looking like for you so that you can start preparing for what that looks like down the road? And don't just go to your bank. Please don't just go to your bank. There's a place for bank loans, and there's a place for independent lenders. There's a place for non-residential commercial, and there's a place for some kind of quirky stuff too. So you need all these people on your team, and I would say get them on your team now so that you can learn what is available and what the future is going to look like for you.
Awesome. Well, Jen, thank you for being here. It's been awesome to have you here, and everyone, you should take advantage of her offer of the 7 strategies so that you can really begin to apply, put into action what Jen just shared with us.
Thank you, Rick, by the way. Thank you for the comment, Rick. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you so much, Chuck, for having me on. It was a delight, and I hope that I, gave value to your group in the short time that we had here together, just to kind of think, I know most of this has been, I'm going to be an investor and great technical stuff, but let's just take a step back and make sure that we can get where we actually want to go.
Yeah, and not leave bodies along the way.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.